A controversial new royal documentary is right now going to air in the UK, The Princes and the Press, which pulls back the curtain on William and Harry's tumultuous relationship and their battles with the media. Here's a snippet.
So difficult to know for sure what happened between any two individuals, but when you're hearing it distilled through several other people, but I think it is probably right that William was unsure about Meghan when Harry started dating her and was cautioning his brother to take it easy and not jump too fast. And I think that is possibly, a root of the problems between them. But I think it developed into more of an argument over who takes priority. We're a big story, but we're not getting enough support, and we're not getting the right support.
Oh, that was interesting, wasn't it?
What a popcorn.
Yeah. Let's bring in former Palace Press Secretary Dickie Arbiter, who is the arbiter of all these things. Dickie, good morning to you. Good evening, London time. Thanks for being up so late for us. So much hype about this documentary. What do you make of it so far?
Well, so far, good evening, both of you, or good morning in Australia. So far, it's pretty fair. I do take issue earlier on in the documentary, and I've only watched 45 minutes of it, and it's still running, that they called William work shy and didn't sort of follow it up by why was he work shy. He was work shy because when he finished university, he went into the army, then a stint in the Navy, then in the Air Force. Then he spent 3 years as a search and rescue helicopter pilot, and then 2 years as an air ambulance pilot. So yes, he was work shy in terms of jobs for the Royals, although while he was an air ambulance helicopter pilot, he did do some royal work. So I take issue on that. But so far, it is pretty fair. We heard Richard Palmer just now talking about the sort of breakout between the two of them, probably over Harry rushing into marriage with Meghan Markle. We've talked about this time and time again on Today, so it's nothing new. As far as pecking order, probably an element of frustration there, because there really is no defined job for the sixth in line to the throne, the spare, as he was always called, and you've got to develop something on your own. There's no defined role for the Prince of Wales. Charles developed a role for himself. Andrew, no defined role for him. He went into the Navy for 20 years and then sort of wasted his time afterwards. So it's beginning to get into that controversial side, and I'll talk more about that once I've seen it.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I think we're all expecting to get some sort of insight into this fractured relationship between William and Harry. I think we already know quite a bit so far. Has there been anything in it that's surprised you, that's been unexpected or you haven't heard before?
No, nothing surprising at all. Some of the talking heads are surprising because some of the talking heads have no more covered a royal story than I've covered the Vatican, and I've never covered the Vatican. So they've got a few interesting talking heads there. But quite a few of them are regular royal correspondents, and they do know what they're talking about. And there's nothing controversial there, nothing that we haven't heard before. So, so far, so good. It remains to be seen what the rest of it's all about.
So, Dickie, much has been made, and we had Camilla Tominey on before, about the royals being particularly upset and nervous about this documentary. Are they just on edge at the moment? Is that the whole thing?
I don't think they are on edge, as is heard William say in the documentary about being interviewed about the press intrusion. He said it's part of the job, and it is part of the job. And there is a love-hate relationship between the palace, and I'm talking about all the palaces and the press. And they've lived with that for years. The Queen's lived with it, late Prince Philip lived with it, Princess Margaret lived with it. So it's nothing new. There is a little bit of a game, we give you something and you write something nice about us. It doesn't always work like that. There was a bit of angst against William and Catherine in the early days because they wanted photographs of William and Catherine. They wanted photographs of the children, and ho-ho, who took the photographs? Catherine took the photographs and probably took better ones than any press photographer would have taken. But they've settled down in that particular household. There's still ongoing litigation between Harry, Meghan and the British media, and this will roll on for ages. There's no end in sight to it. Harry is determined to have his day in court. It remains to be seen when that happens.
It's just like a normal family, aren't they?
It's like an episode of The Crown. Dickie, it's
Funny
lovely to
that.
see your magnificent face. Thank you for being with us again.
Thanks, Dickie.
Thank you very much.
Royal commentator Camilla Tominey joins us now, and she, well, she's in London and we're not. Good morning, Camilla. Nice to see you. How much of an impact do you think this will have on the Royals' image?
Hard to know, because they won't give us any preview copies. So we've been asking the BBC, can we see this in advance, please? And I've got to wait now, what, another hour and a half before it screens on BBC Two tonight, my time. The Palace are getting their knickers in a bit of a twist about this, because they didn't get any preview copies and they don't think the BBC has been straight with them about what is actually in it. So I think their worst fear is that somebody has told this documentary that they were actively briefing against Harry and Meghan during their time in the royal family, and most notably that they briefed the newspapers that Megxit was about to happen to undermine the couple. I actually don't think that's going to be revealed in the documentary at all. I think there's probably a bit of a storm and a teacup brewing over this. Actually, I think the documentary is meant to be fairly cerebral. It's meant to be having a kind of like high-level, highbrow look at the relationship between the palace and the press, and it's not going to contain these clangers necessarily that the palace is worrying about.
Well, you would know, wouldn't you? You're in this documentary. What role did you play?
Yes, that's right, Ali. I am in this documentary. And they were asking me about breaking the story of Harry and Meghan's relationship back in 2016 when I was on my former paper, the Sunday Express. And the guy who does the documentary, Amal Rajan, who is the BBC's media editor, tries to get me to tell him who my sources are. I obviously say, I can't tell you that, otherwise I'd have to kill you.
Yeah.
We then have a discussion about what Meghan was like initially and whether the media were very welcoming to her, which I said, yes, we were, because we thought she was a breath of fresh air. I think there's an attempt to kind of analyse this very difficult dividing line between press and palace. At the end of the day, it's not difficult to understand this relationship. The princes would rather we didn't ever write anything negative about them at all and try and spin things in their own favour. And it's a journalist's job to cut through the spin and try and report accurately, fairly and contemporaneously, even if the royals don't like it, right? That's our job.
Even if we don't understand what that word means, it sounded very impressive. You know, are the boys feuding as well, or are they on the same page with everything?
Well, the boys aren't even on the same continent, are they? So this is tricky. I don't know whether they're necessarily liaising about this. The other thing that has made this slightly more incendiary, of course, is that the BBC is currently a dirty word in royal circles because of the fallout from the Martin Bashir interview with Princess Diana, which may have been in 1995, but that whole thing has exploded in the BBC's face. So as far as the royals are concerned, and particularly Prince William, who kind of wrote this really hard-hitting statement saying, you know, the BBC had been a disgrace and made his late mother's life a misery, you know, in the final years of her life. I think that's also what's rubbing the palace up the wrong way, that the idea that the BBC is at it again, you know, exploiting the family and exploiting the family's trauma.
I don't know, I always just feel, though, that if you've got, you know, you only get upset if there is something to hide, don't you?
I don't
Typically.
know, I've got nothing to hide.
Well, I don't think there's
There's
nothing to hide, but look, at the height of Megxit, of course people were briefing. That's the thing. I mean, Harry and Meghan employ people to brief for them.
Yeah.
The palace employs people to brief for them, but often it's reactive. If the couple go on Oprah, you're going to go to the palace and say, well, what do you think about this? And they're going to respond. But it's not like the palace is phoning people like me up and saying, oh, you'll never believe what Meghan did today, and briefing stories in like that. That just doesn't happen.
How cool if it did, though. Thanks, Camilla.
Not a cup of tea. Thanks, Camilla. Lovely to see you. G'day, it's Ali.
And Karl.
Thanks for watching the Today YouTube channel.
Subscribe now for brand new videos every day and exclusive bonus clips.
Ali, say please.
Please? Why?
Please? I don't know.